On a damp spring morning in the vast lands of Howlett's Wild Animal Park in the heart of England, Teni Aspen woke up to the sound of birds and the fresh scent of damp earth. The only daughter of Damon Aspen, a visionary conservationist, Teni had an unusual childhood between the care of her family and the attention of creatures that, to many, were only figures in documentaries or conservation icons. From a very young age, Teni was introduced to the park's gorillas. Her father believed that building bonds between humans and animals from an early age could foster a new generation of passionate and dedicated conservationists. Jolta and Bims, two western lowland gorillas, soon became Teni's inseparable companions. They were imposing creatures, but with her, they were gentle giants capable of expressing an almost human tenderness. Teni learned to walk under Jolta's watchful eyes, who sometimes extended a hairy arm to balance her when she stumbled over tree roots. Bims, on the other hand, was her playmate. He loved rolling in the grass with Teni, filling the air with laughter and soft grunts. They shared fruit snacks at lunchtime, and Bims delicately picked apple slices from Teni's small hands. This harmonious coexistence between the girl and the gorillas was carefully supervised by caregivers and by Damon himself, who documented each interaction, hoping one day to show the world that peaceful coexistence between species was possible and beneficial. On her 5th birthday, Teni received from her father a necklace with a small silver gorilla-shaped pendant. It was a symbol of her lifelong commitment to her friends and to the conservation mission. Damon knelt beside her, closing the necklace around her neck, and said with a proud smile, "You, my dear, are the bridge between our worlds. The gorillas accept you as one of their own, and that is a precious gift and a great responsibility." These early years of Teni's life were marked by a deep sense of purpose and immeasurable love for her gorilla companions. She grew up knowing that every moment with Jolta and Bims was a lesson in life, teaching her about respect, care, and the intricate web of life that connects all creatures. However, as in all stories of growth and learning, the day would come when Teni would have to face the reality of her friends' mission, to return to the wild where they belonged, to lead their own groups, and contribute to the preservation of their species. This farewell, though necessary, would be one of the most challenging and formative moments of her life. As Teni grew older, she also began to understand the complexity of her father's work and the broader goals of the foundation he led. She knew that the days of innocent play with Jolta and Bims would not last forever, and that they were, above all, ambassadors of their species, destined to lead an independent life in the jungle. At the age of 11, the reality of this separation knocked on Teni's door. One autumn morning was marked by long discussions among conservationists, biologists, and her father. They were preparing for the transition of Jolta and Bims back to the wild, part of the Foundation's reintroduction program. For Teni, although proud of the significant role her friends would play in conserving their species, the news was a painful blow. On the day of departure, the park was bustling with final preparations. Transport crates, filled with comforts and familiarities for the gorillas, were loaded and meticulously inspected. Teni spent every possible moment beside Jolta and Bims, speaking softly to them, reinforcing the safety and love she felt. "You're going home," she whispered, her words choked with emotion, "to a place where you can truly be free, where you belong." Jolta, with his always perceptive expression, gently stroked Teni's head, as if understanding the magnitude of the moment. The farewell was a mixture of tears and smiles, strengthened by her father's conviction that it was the right thing to do. Teni waved until the trucks disappeared from sight, taking a significant part of her heart with them. The following years were ones of growth and learning for Teni, who immersed herself in the study of conservation and biology, determined to continue her family's legacy. The longing for her gorilla friends, however, never left her, and the hope of seeing them again shone in her heart like an unquenchable flame. At the age of 23, driven by nostalgia and a desire to check on Jolta and Bim's successful reintegration, Teni organized an expedition to visit them in the natural reserve where they had been released. With a team of documentarians and biologists, she embarked on this emotional journey, armed with hope and fear of the unknown. Arriving at the reserve, the intense greenery of the rainforest welcomed the team. Tani felt herself transported back in time, every aroma and sound of the forest bringing vivid memories of her childhood. The following days were spent tracking the gorilla signs using location collars that had been carefully placed on the animals before their release. Then, on a rainy afternoon, as they walked along the muddy trail, a subtle movement in the dense vegetation caught everyone's attention. Hearts beating fast, cameras ready, all eyes were on Tani, waiting for the moment that would define the journey. It was the long-awaited reunion, delicately hanging in the balance of the wild nature that was now home to Jolta and Bims. The moist air of the rainforest closed in around Tani and her team as they advanced cautiously. Every sound of the forest seemed amplified. Every snap of a branch, every distant call of a bird created a sonic tapestry that was both beautiful and intimidating. Tani, leading the group, felt the weight of expectation pressing on her shoulders, her eyes scanning the surroundings incessantly, trying to discern any movement that might indicate the presence of her former companions. Hours passed slowly, and the sun began to tilt westward, casting long shadows through the trees. The local guide, a man named Ian, who knew the forest like the back of his hand, signaled for everyone to keep quiet. They had entered an area where, according to the trackers, Jolta and Bims had been recently seen. Tani felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She knew that the gorillas, even if they recognized her presence, could have changed significantly after years in the jungle. They were no longer the young animals playing in the park. Now they were leaders of their own group, wild and adapted to the harsh environment. Suddenly, Ian stopped and silently pointed to a dense thicket ahead. Subtle movements could be seen, and a low, almost grunt-like sound was audible. Tani's heart raced. She held her breath, the camera ready in her hands, as she tried to control the trembling of her anticipation. The vegetation rustled more intensely, and then an imposing figure emerged slowly. It was Bims, recognizable by his piercing gaze and dominant posture. He stopped and looked directly at Tani. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to disappear. Was it the look of recognition or simple curiosity? Tani couldn't tell. Bims took a step forward, his unmistakable, imposing posture. Tani sensed the tension among her team members, all aware of the potential danger of an adult gorilla in its natural habitat. She herself felt a respectful fear mixed with a desperate hope for connection. She took a step forward, slightly separating from the group, and spoke softly, using the same tone she used as a child. "Bims, it's me, Tani," she said, her voice trembling but clear. There was no guarantee that Bims would understand her words, but she hoped that the familiar tone might trigger some memory. The gorilla tilted his head, observing her intensely. The group held their breath, watching this silent exchange. After a tense moment, Bims emitted a low sound, a soft grunt that in the past Tani would recognize as a sign of recognition or a greeting. Ian whispered for the group to remain calm and not make any sudden movements. Everyone was aware that they were at a critical point where any action could be interpreted as a threat. Bims took another step forward, his eyes still fixed on Tani. She remained still, her heart beating so loudly that she feared he might hear it. Then, slowly, the gorilla approached closer, his posture relaxing slightly, a sign that Tani hoped was acceptance. As Bims drew nearer, each of his heavy, measured steps, Tani felt a mixture of relief and joy flood her being. The tension in the air began to dissipate as Bims continued to emit low grunts, which she interpreted as signs of recognition. She remembered these sounds from her childhood. They were the same reassuring vocalizations he made when they were together in the park. Bims stopped a few steps from Tani, his large brown eyes fixed on her. Suddenly, with a surprising gentleness for an animal of his size, he reached out an arm and lightly touched Tani's arm. It was a timid gesture but full of meaning. Tani, overcoming her initial fear, reached out and touched Bim's hand, feeling the familiarity of that rough skin. An emotional smile formed on her lips as tears welled up in her eyes. Bims then did something that surprised everyone. He gently pulled Tenny closer and wrapped her in a hug. It was a cautious but firm embrace, as if he wanted to ensure that she was really there with him. Tenny returned the hug, feeling a wave of emotions overflow within her. The reunion was more than she could have hoped for. The documentarians, keeping a respectful distance, captured every moment of this touching encounter, aware of the rarity and beauty of the scene unfolding before them. Tenny and Bims remained embraced for a long moment, a reunion that transcended the barriers between species, celebrating a friendship deeply rooted in the past and reaffirmed in that magical moment. After the emotional reunion, Tenny spent a few hours observing Bims and his group in the forest, watching him interact with the other gorillas. It was evident that he was a respected leader and caring for his family. Watching him in his natural environment gave Tenny a new perspective on the importance of the conservation work her family had embraced. It was living proof that the effort to reintroduce animals to their natural habitat could succeed, a testament to her father's legacy. As the afternoon gave way to twilight, Tenny knew it was time to say goodbye again. With a heavy heart, she approached Bims for one last farewell. This time, there were no tears, just a sense of gratitude and fulfillment. She whispered words of farewell, promising to continue fighting for the cause that had brought them together. Bims, in turn, seemed to understand that this moment was a farewell. With one last affectionate look and a gentle touch of his hand, he turned and returned to his family, disappearing among the trees of the dense forest. Tenny returned to civilization carrying not only the memories of this emotional encounter, but also a renewed passion for conservation. She was determined to follow in her father's footsteps, expanding and promoting efforts to ensure a future where humans and animals could coexist in harmony. Bim's farewell reinforced her commitment to this future, inspiring her to dedicate her life to protecting wildlife and preserving the natural world. This reunion, captured in images that soon circulated the world, became a powerful symbol of the possible connection between humans and animals and a poignant testimony to the urgent need for environmental conservation.